You know, having already played Link's Awakening Deluxe for a critique on this channel, I feel safe in saying that Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring Legend of Zelda, is probably going to be my favorite of the two Zelda games that come out this year. Now, I was looking forward to a revamped Link's Awakening to be sure, and the art style is adorable, but having just played this, I'm blown away. I've never played the original Crypt of the Necrodancer, so I'm by no means familiar with the series beyond the basic gameplay premise, but from what I can tell from playing this, Brace Yourself Games has rather seamlessly blended their style of gameplay with the 2D Zelda formula, and the result has made this game quickly become one of my favorite 2D Zelda games. I'm hesitant to say whether or not I like it more than Link Between Worlds, but I'd say it's pretty close. The story for Cadence of Hyrule is pretty straightforward. It's probably the most basic I've seen a Zelda story since, well, the first game, I suppose. Hyrule is in danger from the magic musician Octavo and his magical lute, and Cadence, Link, and Zelda must set out to put a stop to him. And you're pretty much just left to your own devices after that. Yeah, beyond the beginning of the game, the only mandatory NPC interactions are relegated to boss cutscenes, with very few exceptions, and because of this, the game has a very strong Zelda 1 vibe. That being said, the game does still retain plenty of NPCs to interact with, be it in villages or in shops scattered throughout the world, and when you do find NPCs to interact with, they still carry the old Zelda charm. Much to my surprise, a fair number of NPCs I interacted with didn't just regurgitate the same line every time you talked with them. They actually have 2 or 3 lines to cycle through, which for me was especially surprising since they take a backseat to most of the game, even by most 2D Zelda standards. I was going to mention statistics as how on average NPCs in 2D Zelda games aren't usually given that much dialogue diversity, but upon reflection, and to dissuade anyone else who may be having similar thoughts, other 2D Zelda games, with the exception of Zelda 1 of course, tend to have far more numerous NPCs to interact with and several more scripted events. So, yeah, let's just say it breaks even. Now, if you're already familiar with Crypt of the Necrodancer, you should already have a pretty good idea of what the gameplay is like. But if you're like me, and this Zelda spin-off is your first intro to the Crypt of the Necrodancer, the core gameplay is basically a turn-based combat game where your turns, movement, and attacks are all performed to the beat of the game's banger of a soundtrack. Indeed, you will be moving and or grooving to a kick-ass soundtrack full of Zelda remixes of such high quality that they'd give Hyrule Warriors a run for its money. The tempo varies from area to area as a result, as it damn well should, and it adds a lovely dose of extra challenge to keep you on your toes. And if that wasn't enough, there are tempo buttons on the ground which can slow or speed up the tempo that can either give you a self-imposed challenge or simply be avoided as a field hazard. They really went all in on the music mechanics. And should you feel that the playstyle isn't for you, there are options to turn off the rhythm-based mechanics if it gives you too much trouble for whatever reason. And while I do think that the rhythm-based mechanics are the ideal way to play, you'll still get an experience strongly reminiscent of the old 2D Zelda games. Beyond the beat, like any other Zelda, you'll be spending your time exploring an overworld in search of various dungeons with big baddies to defeat, which inevitably result in a big showdown with the biggest baddie, Octavo. The overall design of the overworld and dungeons is very reminiscent of, yes, Zelda 1 again. However, this is Zelda 1's formula of exploration at its best. The combat encounters are well structured and are significantly more enjoyable and less prone to bullshit than Zelda 1. Every enemy has a distinct pattern it follows on the beat, so it's never unfair like the dubious nature of Zelda 1 enemy patterns, particularly Dark Nuts. Additionally, while puzzles kinda take a backseat to the exploration and combat in this game, they do still exist, and much to my surprise, some of them are pretty challenging, and allows for a multitude of solutions, which is commendable in its own right. But hey, you know what really makes this game great? Puns. Go Maracas, Riz Robo, Bass Guitarmos, Bass Guitarmos? So what are the visuals, you may ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, friend, because they're just lovely. I'm a pretty big fan of Minish Cap, and in general I think of it as the high point of Zelda's 2D game aesthetics, and Cadence goes a good ways of rivaling it. It has every bit the same amount of personality with its sprite work as Minish Cap had, and without any proper form of metric, I'd wager they're neck and neck. I mean, just look at Link tapping his toe right there. If I had to boil down my entire opinion on tempo of Termina, I'd say it's like if you took the visual charm of Minish Cap, stuck it over Zelda 1 with the kinks ironed out, and made the soundtrack an absolute banger. I'm honestly at a loss of what to complain about. Length, maybe? But it's a very replayable title, and you certainly get what you pay for with the price tag. Seriously, if you're a Zelda fan and you've not had the chance to try this game out, fix that. Or, if you're still dubious about the gameplay, you could always pay the lower price point for the original Crypt of the Necrodancer. Either way, you're probably in for a treat. Now, I know this critique was a bit shorter than usual, but that was kind of unavoidable when there's not much to actually criticize. This is just a game that I felt I had to talk about, and I hope that it got through to you. To those of you at home watching, and not you filthy, filthy phone watchers, I hope you all have a fantastic day and that this video lit a fire under you. Sayonara.